Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
Israel to negotiate with Lebanon. The DOJ goes after the NFL. Artemis II to splash down, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu authorized direct negotiations with Lebanon on Thursday, following U.S. pressure to scale back deadly Israeli strikes in Beirut the previous day. The move came after calls with President Trump and White House envoy Steve Witkoff, who reportedly urged Netanyahu to reduce the Lebanon offensive to protect the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. Talks are expected to begin next week at the State Department in Washington. Netanyahu maintained that the two-week U.S.-Iran ceasefire does not cover Lebanon. Iran and Hezbollah have warned of retaliation if Israeli strikes there continue. The negotiations aim to disarm Hezbollah and potentially establish peaceful relations between Israel and Lebanon, two countries technically at war since 1948. House Republicans shot down an attempt by Democratic lawmakers Thursday to curb President Donald Trump's war powers amid a two-week ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. A group of House Democrats, led by Representative Glenn Ivey, sought to pass a war powers resolution by unanimous consent during a pro forma session Thursday morning. Representative Chris Smith, who presided during the pro forma, gavelled out of session before recognizing the Maryland Democrat on the floor. The war powers measure, supported by House Democratic leadership, would have ended the Iran conflict and blocked Trump from taking further military action absent congressional approval. Congress needs to consider this. The time has come. The time has come, Ivey said after Smith adjourned the session. After flying around the moon and setting the record for the farthest distance ever traveled from Earth during their historic mission, the Artemis II crew is slated to splash down on Friday night. NASA is targeting splashdown at 8:07 p.m., 5:07 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, Friday, April 10th, off the coast of San Diego, NASA has noted. At 10:53 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the Orion spacecraft ignited its thrusters for 9 seconds, producing an acceleration and velocity of 5.3 feet per second and pushing the Artemis II crew towards Earth, NASA explained. The third return trajectory correction burn is scheduled for April 10th at about 1:53 p.m. ahead of re-entry procedures. The Department of Justice opened an investigation into the NFL over whether the league is using anti-competitive business tactics. Game broadcasts have been scattered across streaming services and networks, forcing fans to spend upwards of $1,000 a year to watch every game. Under fire is the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which granted the NFL special antitrust protections to negotiate league-wide TV deals. Senator Mike Lee has already requested a formal review of the league's exemption status. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr went even further, saying the league may be pushing so many games behind paywalls that its antitrust protections are no longer justified. The NFL defended its model, stating that over 87% of its games air on free broadcast television and that games are always available free in competing teams' local markets. Disney is reportedly planning to cut as many as 1,000 jobs as part of a cost-cutting initiative under CEO Josh D'Amaro, who took over as head of the Mouse House last month. Per CNBC, the layoffs are expected to primarily impact the company's marketing department, which was consolidated under the newly created role of Chief Marketing and Brand Officer in January, when Bob Iger was still CEO. Disney's parks and cruises business remains a strong profit center, but the company faces questions around its stock price, franchise fatigue, and linear TV's decline. The Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers increased 0.9% on a seasonally adjusted basis in March, after rising 0.3% in February, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. Over the last 12 months, the all items indexed increased 3.3% before seasonal adjustment. The index for energy rose 10.9% in March, led by a 21.2% increase in the index for gasoline, which accounted for nearly 3/4 of the monthly all items increase. The shelter index also increased in March, rising 0.3%. The index for food was unchanged over the month, as the index for food away from home rose 0.2%, while the index for food at home fell 0.2%. That's the Raw Naked Truth for April 10th, 2026. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.